Hello, and welcome to the first exciting episode of Ranking the World's Worst People. In this show, we will walk you through some of the world's worst people and give them a score at the end of each episode. Our goal is to put all the worst people who have ever lived in one single ranking league so you know exactly what they've done and how they stack up against each other. Now, have you ever wondered how good a person must have been to be considered an actual saint? Well, you don't have to look any further than Mother Teresa. Missionary and philanthropist Mother Teresa was loved by many and is still to this day. But behind the costume, was she truly saintly? In this episode, we're going to demystify the legend of Mother Teresa and put some light on those dark secrets behind her legendary status. From the truth behind her healthcare work to her not-so-prudent lifestyle and questionable quotes, here's everything you didn't know about Mother Teresa. Make sure to watch till the end so you can see her final score. But just before we start digging, make sure you leave a comment to let us know what score you would give her after learning all of her secrets. We will gather all the comments and remake our league at the end of this 10-episode season to give you the refined league of all the worst people in the world. Also, if you press the like button because you like this video and you want to follow us to see some more of the world's worst people, then subscribe and hit the notifications button so you'll get notified when the next ranking comes out. Now, let's get straight into it.
If a mother can murder her own child in her own womb, what is left for you and for me to kill each other?
Who was Mother Teresa? Agnes Boyadziu, also known as Mother Teresa, and more recently as Saint Teresa of Calcutta, is an Albanian Indian Roman Catholic nun. Born in North Macedonia on the 26th of August 1910, Teresa was fascinated by the Catholic religion from a very young age. The death of her father drew her closer to the church, and at the age of 18, she decided to leave home and pursue conventry among the Sisters of Loreto in Ireland. In 1931, she took her first vows as a nun in India, and that was when she changed her name from Agnes or Agnes to Teresa. She opted for the Spanish version of the name for the patron saint of missionaries because she was very involved with the charity aspect of the church. In 1946, she dropped the sister label and was recognized as Mother Teresa. Shortly after, she announced her call within the call, which was to help the poor and destitute victims in India at the time. She took this mission in stride because she felt she was in the best position to administer care to the poor, since she had been at the lowest, helpless points of her life as a young girl. She cared for and lived amongst the poor, and her work was recognized for utter devotion. But it was more than that. By 1950, she approached the Vatican and announced her intentions to start an order, the Missionaries of Charity, MOC. Her dedication to helping the poor made it an easy decision for the Vatican to agree, and the order took off with the assistance of some sisters who joined her. By the time of her death in 1997, Missionaries of Charity had over 4,000 sisters in membership. Mother Teresa's work with the poor got international recognition, and soon throes of donations were coming in to support the work being done by the MOC. But were they being used appropriately? Keep watching to find out. While the world sang praises of her humanitarian efforts, Mother Teresa's actions were not appealing in the least. Here are some of the biggest controversies about her missionary work. Harvesting souls. 2 years after the Missionaries of Charity order was authorized by the Vatican, Mother Teresa set up the first Home for the Dying in Calcutta. The building was set up with the intention of giving the terminally ill a place to pass on with dignity, but it was soon realized that they were simply locations for soul harvesting. Mother Teresa's work and global acknowledgement as a humanitarian was not motivated by a passion for humanity. They were motivated by a passion for the church. At first glance, she seems like an impeccable person who understands the suffering of the poor, the weak, and the sick, but she is far from that. Her mission with the sick was spurred by a goal of conversion. Charity at its best is providing support for those who cannot repay you because you want to feel fulfillment from it. Mother Teresa was carrying out charitable actions because she wanted to convert the recipients. In a place where Hinduism is the primary religion, she was offering limited help to the poor and desperate, coercing them into conversion to the Catholic faith. That's hardly charity if we're being honest. So, how exactly was she achieving this? Mother Teresa had all the makings of a saintly nun. She lived among the poor, was pictured helping out the children, and cared for the sick. But what most people didn't realize is that she was simply doing a PR job done right. Mother Teresa's house of dying was just that, a house to die in. But she, the sisters, and volunteers who worked with her made sure to convert the sick people to their faith in something called baptism of the dying. Not only was this invasive of their fundamental human rights, but it was also transactional by an organization literally called Missionaries of Charity. Like that wasn't bad enough, these homes were in despicable states of care and maintenance, not to talk about the inhabitants, sick, dying, and poor. Mother Teresa's clinics and homes were run by sisters and volunteers who had little to no medical knowledge on catering for sick people, much more those who are dying. The donations that she received from international bodies and questionable individuals were rarely, if at all, used to help the poor, but more on that later. Combined with the fact that these homes had no proper medical information to care for the sick, Mother Teresa also preached a beauty in suffering message. Patients hardly received medication, and when they did, it was inappropriate prescriptions. These houses carried out systematic human rights violations by denying people in need of aid under the guise of guiding them to a better end. Mother Teresa had a surplus of prayers and medallions to offer, but no actual care. She encouraged the sick and dying to embrace the pain and was fond of saying their suffering meant Jesus was kissing them. It is reported that one time she said this to a sick man and he responded, "Tell him to stop kissing me." Robin Fox, a former editor of The Lancet, a British medical journal, visited the home for the dying in 1994, and he reported that there were no strong analgesics to help patients dealing with pain. However, when the mother herself was going through medical issues, she was promptly taken out of the country for the best medical care available. Perhaps her life was more valuable than theirs, or is it that she didn't want the holy kiss? While she cared for herself, Mother Teresa's clinics and houses ran a sort of cult of suffering, but due to the impoverished conditions of the society, she was the only source of any help for these poor people, which further promoted her saintly image. Before her death, Mother Teresa had established over 500 missions and clinics in over 100 countries. She was an international sensation, a light in the dark clouds, with a terrible shadow behind her. Management of funds. Foreigners, the government, and notable figures all across the world were captivated by her work and contributed in cash and kind to the mission. But these contributions never made their way down to those who truly needed them. In fact, it is reported that only about 7% of all donations are used in one way or another to help the poor. We are talking billions and billions of dollars swept under the organization. Where was this money coming from? Where was it going to? Now, an investigation into Mother Teresa herself could not hold water. Although it was evident that funds weren't being dispersed appropriately, the nun also lived amongst the poor, so she wasn't spending the funds. So who was with this money? The Vatican. An inquiry into the Vatican Bank revealed that Mother Teresa was the biggest customer in her lifetime. In fact, if she had made withdrawals from the charity's account, which was held in her name, the bank would have suffered a massive loss. So, she kept true to her mission in one way. She helped the poor marginally and took the lion's share of contributions straight to the church. While people were dying, while children were sick, while many went hungry. A volunteer once commented that during their time working at one of the MOC homes, they got donations from their college for the children, but saw that they weren't using the items. When they asked about it, they were informed that if people living there looked like they didn't need help, people wouldn't donate. This was the response of a house set up by Mother Teresa. Still saintly? Hold on to your hat, because it's about to get wild. Aside from the fact that the Missionaries of Charity were obviously limiting actual help to the destitute, they also refused to publish their financial records. So, no one knew how much was actually going in or coming out of the organization. And they couldn't be probed because they were carrying out charity. Several hundred million, if not billions, get donated at an international scale to the Missionaries of Charity, with no records by those in charge. But the sources of these funds were no better, and Mother Teresa still interacted with them, despite being a Catholic nun. when there are established friendships and connections, it may be a reflection of personality. In her lifetime, Mother Teresa approved Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's suspension of civil liberties in 1975, and also supported Licio Gelli's nomination for the Nobel Prize in Literature, despite his corrupt alliances. But that's only the tip of an iceberg. Mother Teresa had very close ties with the Duvalier dynasty in Haiti. She accepted several donations, a Legion of Honor, and a grant from one of the most despicable dictatorships in history. The Duvalier family were directly responsible for the killing of over 30,000 people during their reign. They were known for torturing political rivals and living luxuriously while their citizens lived in abject poverty. Sounds slightly familiar? Mother Teresa also maintained a close connection with Charles Keating, who donated millions of dollars to her charity and lent her his private jet. Yup, a private jet, for the same nun who said, "There is something beautiful from seeing the poor suffer a lot. It's nice to see they accept their faith and that they sacrifice themselves. The world gains a lot more from their suffering." Guess the world wasn't going to gain from her suffering. When Keating was charged with fraud, Mother Teresa actually produced a character statement for him. Wonder why? Politicians, lawmakers, dictators, and the list continues. Mother Teresa was simply doing it for charity. Or not. Canonization. The process of becoming a saint under Catholic regulations does not usually start until 5 years after the person is dead, but Mother Teresa was an exception. In just about 2 years of her death, a dispensation was issued to speed up the process of her canonization. Now, there are about 5 stages in the canonization process, which includes 2 recorded miracles. In the last stage, for Mother Teresa to become a saint, a woman came forward saying that her tumor had miraculously disappeared after interceding to the then Blessed Teresa. While her attending doctors denied it was a miracle, the Vatican decided to record it as such. In September 2016, Mother Teresa was canonized by Pope Francis I and became Saint Teresa of Calcutta. Not only does the entire process shed an awkward, controversial light on the Catholic community, it was also criticized extensively. But then, she was the biggest customer, so what do we know? In her life and works, there are some beliefs which Mother Teresa held dearly and stood by, but we don't think humanitarianism and social work were included. Keep watching to find out some of her beliefs on societal issues. In a meeting with Christopher Hitchens, she reportedly confirms that her work is not to alleviate poverty because she wasn't a social worker. She was simply doing it for Christ, for the church. That raises a lot of questions, but when you think back to the fact that she was receiving millions in donations for the poor, she didn't specify that her work was for the church. But maybe she didn't have to because she never explicitly said she was there to make their living standards better. Whatever the case was, what we do know is that a single donation from her several connections would have had a significant impact on the conditions of the poor. But it wasn't used to help them. Instead, the Vatican Bank took a huge chunk of the funds, and the people they were meant for remained on the streets, suffering. Well, she did say there was beauty in suffering, maybe just not for her and the church. In fact, she denied the nuns working with her the basic comforts, like heating and mattresses. That is another aspect of alleviating poverty that she could have been very impactful. The empowerment of women. But she had different ideas about that. Abortion, divorce, and remarriage. Mother Teresa was staunchly against abortion, divorce, and remarrying by women. She intensely spoke about contraceptives and vouched that abortion is the biggest destroyer of love and peace. She has also been quoted saying, "If a mother can kill her own child, what is then left for the West to destroy?" This was during the Bosnian War, where several women were raped by Serbian forces and got pregnant. She advocated for them to live with the painful memories and risk of birth in unsanitary conditions. Mother Teresa also spoke strongly against divorce and remarrying. So much that she actually campaigned to make divorce and remarriage illegal in Ireland. But guess what? When Princess Diana, with whom she had a close relationship, was going through a divorce, Mother Teresa didn't speak against it. Perhaps the bias drew a clear line in her beliefs. Ratings. We thought deeply about Mother Teresa's story while trying to come up with her rating. Her personality is seriously flawed, and it's a wonder that the world couldn't see beyond the holier-than-thou part of her. Nonetheless, her work has had some positive influence on the world, so maybe there's a silver lining. Well, going by our ratings, where 1 is a parking ticket and 100 is the worst human in history, we'd give Mother Teresa... This puts her at first place at the moment, but that's with just 1 out of 10 episodes in this first season. What do you think? We've discussed the bulk of controversies surrounding Mother Teresa's life and her work, a lot of which is very questionable, especially for a glorified humanitarian. Doesn't help matters that one Missionaries of Charity home in India had a baby selling scandal where it was reported that over 200 births had been undocumented. Despite these controversies and several conspiracy theories, it may just be worth the accolades that Mother Teresa got because her work, or what it seemed like, inspired others. Seeing the suffering of the masses across the world, mostly through her missions, several people and organizations were inspired, and a lot have done actual charitable work. But let us know your rating for Mother Teresa in the comments section below. Was Saint Teresa of Calcutta an actual saint, or was she just the poster nun for a conversion mission? We will count all your votes and present the final list at the end of the season. Thank you for watching this episode, and if you want to see more of the world's worst people, then press the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you get notified when the next person gets unraveled. If you need to learn more about our ranking system, watch this short introduction video to how it works. Also, let us know who you'd like to see in the next season in the comments and our soon-to-come Patreon site. Until next time, goodbye.